Cleopatra has achieved a legendary status way beyond ancient history, where she's in advertisements, she's in plays, she's in movies, she's in books, she's everywhere. And that's why she's, I think, transcended just another ancient personage or ancient woman.
The real Cleopatra.
Next on Black Nouveau.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Milton Dockery.
And I'm Faithe Colas. We're glad you could join us. This week, we'll tell you about job and scholarship opportunities in a field you might not be thinking about.
We'll conclude our discussion with Dr. Mary Frances Berry, one of the pioneering women in the civil rights movement.
And we'll remember the new Jubilee Community Choir, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary this month.
But first, was Cleopatra a beauty like Elizabeth Taylor, or more like Beyonce? The answer to that and many other questions about Egyptian history can be found at the Milwaukee Public Museum's exhibit, Cleopatra, the Search for the Last Queen of Egypt. The touring exhibit, which is currently at the Milwaukee Public Museum, boasts almost 150 artifacts that open a window on Egyptian history.
Well, Egyptian history, of course, is very long. It's one of the longest lived civilizations in the world. And the history of Egypt goes back thousands of years, but even if we just say to the beginning of what we call the first dynasty, the first time when Egypt was completely ruled by one ruling family of kings, that goes back to before 3000 BC. That's 5,000 years ago. You have the Old Kingdom, the period of the pyramids, the Middle Kingdom, about 2000 BC, and the New Kingdom, the period of the great empire of Egypt, the time of Tutankhamun, about 1500 to 1200 BC. Cleopatra comes even later in what we call the Ptolemaic era, a period of 300 years, right after Alexander the Great had taken over Egypt in the late 4th century BC. He left no heirs, but his general Ptolemy took over the kingdom of Egypt, which he had taken back from the Persian Empire at that time. So he started a line of kings called Ptolemaic kings. They were all named Ptolemy. Cleopatra's at the very end of that dynasty, and right when Rome was coming in. So Cleopatra is a pivotal point between the Hellenistic or Macedonian Greek period in Egypt and the Roman takeover of Egypt.
She is such a fascinating person. Talk about Cleopatra, the woman.
Cleopatra has this image, of course, this legend about her, that she's amazingly beautiful, but a seductress, devourer of men, you might say. And this is an image that the Romans gave her because they wanted to basically tarnish her reputation, because she had enraptured first Julius Caesar, and then after his death, Mark Antony, another prominent Roman. Romans were very loyal among themselves, and Octavian, who became the first emperor of Egypt shortly after Cleopatra's death, wanted to blacken her reputation. He could not blacken Mark Antony's reputation, who was actually fighting against him. So he had to say, it's Cleopatra's fault. She seduced him. She turned him away from being a good Roman male. In fact, she probably was no worse than any other woman in history. She used the powers she had, just as a man would use his powers. It wasn't always physical power, it was charm and wit. Was she as beautiful as all the paintings and all the movies and plays depict? We don't think so. We don't really know what she looked like, because there's very few images of her with her name attributed to them. Coins have her name on them, and the coins, she's not looking too good, but they didn't have that quality of coinage portraiture as we have today. So we just don't know how beautiful she was. But the ancient Roman writers that talk about her say she was charming, intelligent, witty, not necessarily the most beautiful thing you've ever seen.
The exhibit has artifacts from 2 archaeological investigations. One, an underwater inquiry that has been going on since the mid-1990s. The other, a quest for Cleopatra's tomb. Why is she so important today?
I think Cleopatra's importance today stems from the fact that she does pervade so many aspects of even our modern culture, and has since her death 2,000 years ago. Anybody can mention Cleopatra and you'll get some image in your head. It may be a different one for different people. Oh, she's the most beautiful woman that ever lived. Oh, she's the most wicked woman that ever lived. Oh, she's a great ancient ruler. Oh, she seduced certain Romans. But you know something about her. So she has this legendary, as I say, about her. And as a result, people have a notion of what they think about her. Now, much of it, unfortunately, is false or is exaggerated, let's say. And as we do more excavations, more historical research about her life and her times and the context of her times, we can refine that image as much as possible to try and present the real Cleopatra as much as we understand her today.
And the exhibit answers the question of Cleopatra's heritage.
There are interpretations that Cleopatra is herself an African, of course, or a black person. She was a queen of Egypt, although she was not primarily a native Egyptian. As I mentioned before, she was the last of a line of Macedonian Greek rulers. She never lived in Macedonia, north of Greece, but her ancestors for 300 years came from there. Now, there is some hints that she, not she personally, but early in her family line, in her dynasty, there had been intermarriage with some of the Syrian parts of that kingdom. So she was of mixed race, certainly. She had European blood. She may have had some Egyptian blood. So we don't know exactly what she looked like. Unfortunately, we have, as I mentioned, we have only coins, and the coins are profiles, and they're very small, and they're very undetailed. So we can't say she looked like this or she looked like that. And so it is an area open to interpretation. The point is, she's an important, fascinating woman for people of literally any background to find interesting and to be intrigued with and want to learn more about, I think.
What would you wish for the public that views this exhibit?
I would like them to understand, first of all, that archaeology is an ongoing thing and that we're always learning something new. Virtually everything in this exhibit is from relatively recent excavations, stuff that has not been in museums for decades. So it's all new stuff. It's still being done. New research is still being done. New finds are still being made. And secondly, that some of these new interpretations of Cleopatra elevate her beyond just the femme fatale that we've come to expect from popular books and movies, that she is a competent, capable ruler who, had things gone a little bit differently, might have changed the whole history of the ancient world and might have changed how we live today even.
The traveling exhibit is at the Milwaukee Public Museum until April 22nd, 2012.
When we speak of race, we know that there are many racial and national origin groups and that they suffer discrimination. The immigration discussion that we are having in this country right now and have had for some time serves to demonize Latinos in some quarters. And Asian Americans are further demonized, really, by always being called the model minority. And people assuming that they all want to be scientists and engineers. And Native American Indians, we know, are not all owners of casinos and oil wells. And many of them live in dire poverty, plagued by alcoholism and despair. But fundamentally, the country's racial divide is about white and black as a paradigm. And that is what is going on in this country and has been going on.
Dr. Mary Frances Berry, attorney, professor, and author, ran the federal education program under President Jimmy Carter, worked on the Civil Rights Commission, and monitored the enforcement of the civil rights laws. Her career has been about righting wrongs and making change.
We have civil rights laws in most of the areas. There still is contention in areas like LGBT rights and others. But the problem is, one, getting them enforced, and two, the courts. Most people don't seem to understand that in political campaigns, who gets to appoint people to the federal courts and to the state courts is as important as getting laws passed or worrying about who's going to enforce them.
Child care and women's rights have been a focus for you. How have you seen the areas improve or decline?
Well, this recent campaign flare-up about contraception and birth control and all of that, I thought it was faring pretty well. And maybe that's just a brief flare-up. These things happen during campaigns. But I think that we have laws on the books that give equality of rights to women. They're not as strong as if we had an Equal Rights Amendment, which we tried in the 70s and 80s to get, but never were able to get. There still are pay disparities. there still is this idea that women are principally responsible for children and for work. I mean, they have to go to work and be principally responsible for child care and the household and all that. And some women like that. They think, I'm superwoman, I can do everything. And other women understand that they need to have a balance in their lives.
Dr. Berry said things have improved and changed for women, but they have not changed as much for Black and Latino women as they have for white women.
In 1983, Nelson Mandela was in jail and had been in jail for over 20 years. Apartheid was strong in South Africa. Thousands of people who were protesting had been detained and put in jail. People had been killed.
She, along with others, formed the Free South Africa movement and helped get the law passed to end apartheid in South Africa and helped free political prisoner Nelson Mandela.
I happened to have been in South Africa. I went to South Africa after that. I was there the day that Nelson got out of jail and was privileged to be there and see that happen.
Comparing South Africa and the United States today, which country has moved forward and fared better?
South Africa has enormous economic problems because the whites in South Africa gave up the politics, but they didn't give up the economy. And so the economy is still a major problem. Their constitution is more advanced than ours. It has rights and privileges in it that we can only dream of. Economic rights, privileges as goals and protections and so on. So they're advanced as far as that's concerned. But they have worse economic problems of a class divide with people who are still even poorer than the people who are poor in this country and who have not benefited from apartheid because, as I say, whites who had control of the economy before still have control of it now.
Dr. Mary Frances Berry has authored numerous books, one which is now getting an update.
I wrote a book with a guy named John Blassingame some years ago called Long Memory, The Black Experience in America. And we are now planning to update that book. It's been wildly successful and bring it out again. I'm also writing a book about how lots of black folks migrated from the South in the late 19th century when Jim Crow settled down, but there were a lot of people who stayed. And the question is, what did the people who stayed do? Not just what did the people do who went someplace else, but what about all those people who stayed there? And so what I want to focus on is, what did they do?
The new Jubilee Community Choir is under the direction of Dr. Wallace Cheatham, an internationally recognized musical artist and scholar. The choir has been in existence since 2003.
The new Jubilee Community Choir is a community ensemble, a choral ensemble that has as its mission to give to the community a very high performance level of choral music, principally within the sacred, from the sacred perspective of choral music.
You've got to feel the drama in this, and the lines are just in and out.
Our choir rehearsals are a lot of hard work, and they are a great deal of fun. Dr. Cheatham has a beautiful way of explaining exactly what he wants to get out of you. He doesn't mind stopping you in the middle of something and telling you it was completely wrong, and hollering and stomping his feet and jumping him down. But it's all it's all kind of humorous in the sense that we know what he wants. He wants the music right, and he wants it beautiful.
Most of us have known each other for many years because we've been singing around the Christian community for a long time. We came together in 2003
as a result of a concert we attended that presented Glenn Burley compositions. And so a group of us had attended the concert, and the committee was formed, and they got together a group of singers, and that's how we got together originally. It's a big commitment to give up half of your Saturday for about 4 months out of the year. And during that time, you know, we have to be careful about the other appointments we make. Generally, I don't travel during the time because I'm a person who wants to know what I'm doing, and therefore I'm not going to miss any rehearsals unless I'm ill. And so it is a big commitment, but it's worth it. You know, when we do the concert and we see the quality and we see that we're reaching people and they're enjoying us and we're enjoying what we're doing, it's all worth it.
I enjoy planning a rehearsal, and I enjoy executing a rehearsal. I don't believe in spoon feeding a group, and there are people in the Jubilee Singers that have worked with me on various projects over a period of years, and they know that. They know that I want them to learn to be comfortable with a score, and very often people are learning skills, reading skills that they don't even realize they're learning. But if a conductor never challenges a group and never expects them to reach and grow and learn to read, they won't do it.
We're trying to make sure that one genre of music that we sing does not go out of existence, and that's Negro spirituals. They were a way of the slaves of communicating with themselves, not only just to have a way of relieving the pain of their existence, but there were hidden messages and meanings in a lot of the Negro spirituals.
The choir's effort to preserve music bridges generations. They have a children's choir and a youth choir for high school students.
We want to teach them a love for the music, not just the music, but a love for the music, so that they would take that down to the children.
But the choir's efforts don't stop there. They also award music scholarships.
We have college students that we follow, you know, beginning with their sophomore year, and we award them scholarships each year until they graduate.
But for the members, the love of great music is the most important thing.
There's a difference between doing music correctly and doing music right. Wallace does music right. Everybody there wants to be there when it's done.
If you are looking for a job or a college scholarship, our guest may be able to direct you to a career that you might not have considered in the National Forest Service. We're joined by Clara Johnson, Job Corps Liaison, and Darryl Pridgeon, Urban Connection Program Manager. Welcome to Black Nouveau. First, before we talk about jobs, scholarships, and internships, explain what the National Forest Service does and why Milwaukee is the headquarters for the Eastern region. Darryl.
The U.S. Forest Service is a land management agency, and we manage from Minneapolis to New England through a 20-state area, 15 national forests, 1 national tallgrass prairie. It is here that it was decided that Milwaukee be our hub, the center point of management and its operations.
Okay. Now, Darryl, you are the Urban Connections Program Manager, and people don't associate national parks with urban America, do they? And elaborate on that, sir.
Well, One thing that we found that there was a disconnect in having the voice of urban America in forest management. Okay. And it was then that we decided to involve cities such as Milwaukee, Detroit, Boston, etc., in decisions, in employment career opportunities that would be of benefit to help diversify our workforce and have input in forest management.
So to make this simple, you're looking for more people of color in the National Forest Service.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Clara, what kind of jobs do you have?
The Forest Service has over 30,000 jobs. First of all, we have jobs that range from, well, first we have permanent employment opportunities and we have temporary employment opportunities. In our permanent arena, we have jobs that range from A to Z, architects. We have soil scientists and hydrologists, wildlife biologists, and engineers, and it just covers the gamut. We have similar jobs in our temporary arena. They range similarly. We have biological technicians, soil scientists, aides, forestry aides, firefighters, etc. So we have just a number of jobs that we offer to
the jobs that are targeting this diverse area that you're looking at, are they primarily permanent?
It depends. Right now we're hiring approximately 111 permanent jobs, and we're looking at hiring approximately 202 jobs. Those jobs span the entire eastern region.
Now, Clara, just to push this a little further, how do you fit into the jobs equation?
As the Job Corps liaison, part of my responsibility is to seek out young individuals who are attending Job Corps centers, similar to the one that's here in Milwaukee. And my role is to provide them opportunities for employment. And we do quite a good job at
Does that include training as well?
It does. At our Job Corps centers, the primary reason for the Job Corps centers existing is to provide young kids between the ages of 16 to 24 an opportunity to earn their high school diploma, GED, or get a vocational trade.
All righty, so a great working relationship between the Job Corps and the National Forest Association. Now let's talk about, now you have scholarships and you have internships. Want to make sure we make that distinction. Let's talk about scholarships, either one of you.
In our agency, we have opportunities for people who are as young as 18 years old, who's graduating with their high school diploma, to when they go to college, to enter into one of our internship programs. And it's at a tremendous amount of different colleges. For example, we have programs throughout historically black colleges and universities where we pick up some of these kids and we bring them to our agency. And the benefits to the young kids, and I say kids because they're 18, the benefit is that they get an opportunity to study. And when they're not studying during the fall season or the time that they're in school, they come and they work with us. And when they're working with us, they're getting trained and they're learning a skill. But the benefit of both of those together collectively is they get gainful employment when they've completed those two entities.
Let's talk about the scholarship connection with the historically black colleges. I find this just totally unbelievable. Go ahead.
We have a program, and one of our most prominent programs is our 1890 Scholars Program. Is run by a very talented individual. And what she does is she goes to those historically black colleges and universities across the nation, predominantly in the South, of course, is where our HBCUs are, and she recruits. She find those young people who have GPAs of 3.0 and higher and recruit them into our agency. And when she recruit those, especially in the 1890s program, they receive full tuition. They receive an opportunity to work, again, with us during the summertime. And when you get a full 4-year tuition, everything's paid for, and that's really great.
And you're guaranteed employment once you graduate.
And they're guaranteed employment once they
graduate. What better situation can you ask for? Is there, very briefly, because I have a very limited amount of time left, is there a preferred discipline for those in the internship area?
Well, it ranges. We were talking about this earlier, where we have some careers. For example, myself, I attended an HBCU, and I got my degree in agronomy, and I started working with the agency as a soil scientist. And it's in any of our natural resources fields, but also we want to encourage people to engage in those programs when they're pursuing administrative arenas. For example, for our financial arena. We need budget analysts, we need contractors, we need all of those things that any business would have
not just
in our
outdoors.
administrative, not just outdoors.
All right.
That's
Now,
correct.
if people want more information, how can they go about getting it?
The best way to learn about the permanent or temporary positions that we're hiring, you can do one of two things. You can go on usajobs.com, click on that, and all of the jobs that are not only within the Forest Service, but within all of the federal government are posted there. And then they can always call one of us.
All righty. Mr. Pridgeon, Ms. Johnson, thank you for joining.
Thank you.
The Trayvon Martin killing has sparked a lot of outrage and discussion. We'll look at the incident next week and talk about its mental health implications for African American males.
And before we close tonight, we have this programming note. This week's 4th Street Forum looks at Wisconsin's prisons and asks if the movement to reduce the population would be better for families and communities, or is it an open invitation to crime?
The program airs this Friday, April 6th at 9 p.m. on Channel 36.1 and again Sunday, April 8th at 9 a.m. on Channel 10.1.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
Remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night, and thanks for watching.